Let's talk more about the franchisees themselves. What are some of the key like financial considerations that they need to they need to consider when they're going to become a franchise? I would imagine though it doesn't take a whole lot of startup cost. I mean, you said 250 all in, but I know we can't talk profitability, so to speak. I don't want to go outside and talk item 19 here, but tell me a little bit about the startup for the franchise owners.
You want the breakdown of kind of startup cost and working capital?
Yeah. What that all includes.
Yeah. So around 250, our average deal has been around 250.
Mm-hmm.
Our average owner has 4 territories. So we've got a $80,000 startup package that they purchase from us. What I tell the owners is this is turnkey. If you have to buy anything, send me the receipt. Now, this is a turnkey startup package. So we've got we're wrapping their truck, we're designing it, printing it, installing it, all their uniforms, all their printed material. Half of that 80 grand is equipment, blowers, vacuums, duct cleaning equipment, all the tools, ladders, thermal cameras, all the stuff that comes into it. We take 22,000 of that and we do the marketing for the owner until that runs out. And so we try to run a 3 or 4 month campaign with it. And if we run out of money sooner than that, that's a good problem, right? So, but we manage the lead generation for them with that initial startup package just to kind of fine tune it, figure out which fishing holes are producing the leads for them, get it dialed in, and then we hand that over to them once the money runs out.
All
so
right.
That's the startup package, and then we have a franchise fee.
And tell me about training. What does training and support look like?
So we have it's 3 phases. Phase 1 is virtually. We do a 6-week onboarding. And it takes us about 6 weeks to get you ready to open. We meet weekly, twice a week, and it's a lot of administrative stuff. Getting bank accounts and getting insurance, any licensing, getting their truck, and all the logistics and all that stuff. That takes us 6 weeks.
Okay.
We do a little bit of Insulation 101 and some sales training during phase 1 just to kind of get their feet wet. And then once that's complete, they're going to fly out to Nashville. They're going to come to Clarksville where our corporate location is here. And so we have a corporate business here. And then we have a training center upstairs where we basically turned it into a big mock-up attic up there. And so we do 2 days of classroom training while they're here. We call it Death by PowerPoint. For 2 days, we're passing around Red Bulls and watching PowerPoints for 2 days. And then we do a third day of static training where they actually get to learn how to use the equipment and the trucks and in a static environment. And then Thursday and Friday, we actually go out on real jobs. So they're going to load up and we're going to go out on real jobs and they get to actually get in there and do it. And then they'll get to go on real live sales calls too. And they'll get to see what rights looks like, So my thing is part of the military is, like practice what you preach. So if I'm going to go out and coach Josh on something, I need to be doing that myself here. So, we take them out so they can actually see it in action. That way you get a little more buy-in when you go out to do a field visit, because it's like, hey, we're doing it. They get to really go out and do it. So it's 5 days here, all hands on, and then they get back home and they open that next week. And that's phase 3. And phase 3 is where we really start building the habits. That's where Brock comes in with his psychology background. And so according to him, it takes, 6 weeks to build a habit. So, we want to meet once a week, structured business coaching call. And we're going over KPIs, just getting them thinking a certain way as they're growing the business. And then we kind of dial that back to a monthly check-in once they get going. But that's kind of in a nutshell what the onboarding looks like.
What about if I'm a new franchisee, Dustin? So how many people am I generally hiring right away?
Pretty lean starting out. Most of our owners are owner operators, so they have a 2 to 3 man crew doing the work. So we help them find a crew chief, which is like your lead guy, and then he just needs a helper. So two guys in a truck, they're doing the work, and then the franchise owner, typically starting out, they're doing the estimates. They're going out selling the jobs. That's pretty much a 1 truck operation. Now you're running pretty lean.
Smart.
And then once you hit a certain benchmark revenue, you look to bring in a salesperson because that's where you're going to start growing the business is getting out of the day-to-day stuff and focusing on networking.
So Dustin, since you've been in franchising now a whole year and a half, I guess, but really beforehand, right, when you were Chem Drive, what's been one of your biggest surprises since you've been being a franchisor?
Biggest surprise. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I wouldn't say surprise. It's just more challenging. Different markets, different demographics. What worked in LA is not necessarily the same approach in Louisville, Kentucky. That's been kind of fun to learn different markets and what the pulse is in that market. I would say that's a little bit of every franchise is going to run into that. Like you've got one market where you're just crushing it with Yelp, and
Right.
then you think that's going to do good in another market and it's nothing. So that's one challenge. It's just kind of like a trial and error with lead generation. I would say that's one thing that's been kind of interesting to learn.
Sure. And since you're in the retrofit business, it's really about being more so in the established home areas, not new construction areas, not where you're going after.
Right. Yeah, we do quite a bit of commercial, like Todd in LA. I mean, they're doing some really big commercial jobs, new construction, they've done a couple Trader Joe's out there and hotels and stuff like that, but it kind of lands in their lap. They don't really go after the commercial.
Okay. But that is part of your franchise. A franchisee could go after the commercial side of business.
Absolutely. Yeah. The thing is like what's really good about our business is cash flow. When you're working with homeowners directly, our average ticket's about $4,000, and that's a 6-hour job. So we're in and out collecting a check every day. Cash flow is really good when you're doing that. But when you try to close a $250,000 commercial job, you better have some money in the bank because you're not going to collect a check from that contractor for 6 months.
Right.
So we don't want them to really get over their skis too early. You want to get that residential base going, get the cash flow going. That's what pays the bills. And then when you add that second truck, now you can kind of flex into these commercial jobs, but you're still paying your bills with the residential clients.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Kind of the approach.
Well, Dustin, there's been, like I said earlier, so much competition out there. What trends are you seeing in the industry?
For insulation?
Yeah.
It's been really good. The Inflation Reduction Act, controversial bill last year that was passed in Congress.
Yep.
50 million page bill.
Right.
There was a piece of that was $4.3 billion in energy rebates. So that was passed last year. And so basically there's $4.3 billion that got split up among all the states, and they rolled out a state level energy rebate program. Florida's slotted to go live in the summer, this 2025 in the summer. And so it's found money for homeowners to upgrade their insulation, to put a new HVAC unit in, put a heat pump in, put solar on their roof. And we're kind of riding that wave right now. It's usually most markets we're seeing about a $4,000 rebate for insulation, which is our average ticket. So a lot of the times the state's paying the bill on the whole job for the homeowner. So that's been kind of lucrative. And then there's also a federal tax credit called the 25C that was passed, and it's $1,200 for insulation. It's a $1,200 tax credit if you upgrade the attic insulation.
Wow.
So, the industry's kind of pushing that agenda, and we're kind of riding that wave.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.